Well, hello to all you amazing primitive screwheads out there, wherever you happen to be tuning in from around the world. Spud here, founder of the fan page Army of Darkness and Evil Dead Comics, and I thank you for joining us today for what I hope will be the first of many live interviews with some of the creative talent behind Army of Darkness comics. Today's guest is none other than Elliott Serrano and the writer of several exciting stories that take place within the Army of Darkness universe. But before I introduce Elliott, I would like to bring in my co-host, the admin for Army of Darkness and Evil Dead Comics, and also the founder of the fan page Hounds of Gore, Jake.
Hey, what's up,
Jake?
bud?
There he is. Thanks for your help today, legend.
Yeah, absolutely.
Excellent. Tell us about yourself.
Yeah, sure. So I started Hounds of Gore kind of as a little art page, really. I've been a big fan of like B horror for a long time, since Army of Darkness specifically. And I think it was like a year and a half ago or so, I started getting back into some artwork because it's not my main source of income, and came up with this guy right here this guy behind me, the Evil Dead 2 skull. I made him on a black canvas one day and just kind of took off, and decided to kind of make like a Facebook page, and had some suggestions from friends that Instagram would be a great way to promote my artwork, and was somewhat hesitant, but did decide to do that last year in October, and it's been a blast. I got a lot on my plate, so I don't necessarily do artwork all the time. So within that period of time, I like to kind of fill in stuff with my personal collection, which is, comics, manga, figures, movies, etc., that are all just kind of horror related. And I'd say probably like over the last like year, I got brought into comics because I was looking for more crazy stuff to watch or read, and stumbled upon the Crossed comics. And then I think it might have been your page where I saw there was Army of Darkness comics, and I was like, oh my God, I gotta have those, because Army of Darkness and the Evil Dead franchise is definitely, I would say, my favorite franchise. And started collecting those like right off the bat, and kind of going nuts, and started like posting a lot of that kind of stuff. And I stumbled upon your page on Facebook, I think, and really liked what you had going on. And I think, I don't know, it was in October. I got a message. I know I had like reached out to you a few times asking you some questions. And to my surprise, I think it was like in October, you had messaged me and were like, hey, like I've kind of been doing some thinking. What are your thoughts on maybe, helping me out with my Instagram page? And that was awesome. I was super excited about that. Whether be kind of a little hobby thing, but super excited to do that. Been super excited, and it's been awesome talking to you for the last since October. Obviously we get along really well, which is awesome. And yeah, man, the Hounds of Gore page has just been like awesome. I will say, like, I've met a ridiculous amount of support from the comic community. Shout out to the Ghoul Division. These guys are awesome. As well as like the horror community on Instagram, which is just like super awesome too. And it's throw in my favorite stuff, Army of Darkness, and it's awesome. I'm loving it, and getting opportunities to see the writers or meet with them and talk to them is pretty sweet. So moving forward, Just continue to try and pump out some artwork here and there when I have free time. And, you know, in the meantime, you can enjoy all my gory, horror-related stuff with a little bit of wholesomeness thrown in there occasionally.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah.
Well, love your content and really appreciate your help today and with the page as well. No, I really do.
Yeah, for sure.
Excellent. Well, I just thought I'd talk a little bit about our guest today, Elliott Serrano. We're going to be nerding it up today on an old nerd box here with Elliott. Elliott is from Chicago, Illinois, and is a regular host on Caffeinated Comics on the Radio Misfits podcast network and Shaken Not Heard, a James Bond fan cast exclusively on Facebook. He can also be found on terrestrial radio, serving as a guest host. He has been christened the King of Geeks in Chicago by sports radio host Lawrence Holmes and dubbed Chicago's Clark Kent by Eisner Award-winning comic book artist Gene Hart. He first gained recognition as co-host of the Comic Culture Warrior review show on YouTube. He is an original member of the Chicago Red Eyes Bloggerati group. He has been a featured guest and chief geek officer on the Patty Vasquez show, WGN Radio, and WCPT AM 820. His first love is writing comic books with notable runs for Army of Darkness. We'll have to ask him about that. And the Grumpy Cat miniseries for Dynamite Entertainment. He has written for Playboy.com, is a former geek dating and relationships columnist for BleedingCool.com, and is the former associate editor and graphic designer for the comic and pop culture e-zine Comics Waiting Room. His books are available on Amazon and can also be found or ordered from your local comic shop. Without further ado, may I please introduce Mr. Elliott Serrano. Elliott, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for that startlingly accurate history. You obviously did not have ChatGPT do it for you.
No, I might have pinched it from your Instagram.
That's fine. No, that's all accurate. Go straight to the source, right? Go straight to the source.
Excellent.
Well, awesome, Elliott. Thanks for joining us. Kind of started off with kind of what drew you to comic book writing, and in particular, our favorite franchise.
Well, I mean, I'd been wanting to be a comic book writer for as long as I knew that they actually had someone who wrote them, right? You know, you get them first as a kid, and luckily, I would really start writing comic books when they would put those credit boxes in there. You know, there was a time that you didn't see any credits for the writer or the artist. Remember, you look at like the early Archie comics, they didn't have those in there. But then DC, Marvel, and other publishers would finally put in who the creatives were. I was like, wow, people are doing this? They can actually, do this as a job? So from that point on, I said I really wanted to get into comics. Spent a lot of time kind of like honing my craft and figuring out what direction I wanted to go in. At first, I actually wanted to be a comic book artist. I wanted to be a penciler. I was inspired by artists like John Byrne, Steve Rude, Michael Golden. You know, we're talking top tier, you know, folks who there was no way in hell I was ever going to be that good, and I just didn't have the tenacity to stay at a drawing board all day and work on it. So I took the second hardest path, which would be the becoming the writer. No way I could ever become like, let's say, the next Frank Miller, who is both an incredible artist, draftsman, and writer. So I thought, if I'm a writer and I can hook up with a good artist, they would pretty much make my hay doing that. Which I have been very lucky in some of the artists I've gotten to work with. Beyond that, getting into Army of Darkness, it's funny. I got into the Evil Dead series in reverse order. I saw Army of Darkness first in the movie theater. I forget why I was there. I was on a date. I said, "Hey, let's go see this." I automatically just fell in love with the whole Sam Raimi sensibility, and became a huge Bruce Campbell fan. after seeing Army of Darkness, I went backwards. I saw Evil Dead 2 on video, and then finally went to the Evil Dead 1 after that. And just, I really enjoyed how Sam Raimi put kind of a new spin on the horror genre. Really freaky, scary stuff, but also a sense of humor. You know, I'll be honest, I'm not a big fan of the slasher movies because slasher movies make the killer seem like invincible and you can never stop them, and evil always wins in these films. Which is why I like, I liked Army of Darkness. I like the Evil Dead films. Buffy the Vampire Slayer. The folks where there's a balance to them. The Serpent and the Rainbow, when I think about that Wes Craven film, having to do with voodoo. I remember seeing that as a kid and being kind of freaked out thinking, oh, Wes Craven movies are creepy. And when you get to the end and you see it's just this great big battle between good and evil, it's like, okay, this I can get into. So that's why the Army of Darkness franchise appealed to me the most.
Nice. That's funny too, because that's kind of how I got into Army of Darkness as well. It was very I think I saw Army of Darkness on TV one day, and then it was kind of like, all right, oh there's more of them, but this was the last one,
Yeah, and it's like as always. Then you find out later on that the ending was supposed to be different. And it was supposed to continue even more so on other things. And
the extended
then I would go and I would collect the DVDs and the Blu-rays and get the alternate editions. When I finally got in with Dynamite Entertainment, when they had the Army of Darkness license, there's an interesting thing that folks might not realize, but there are several licenses out there for the Evil Dead and Army of Darkness franchise. So let's say Dark Horse owns the original Evil Dead license. That would cover, I want to say, Evil Dead 1 and 2. Dynamite Entertainment has the Army of Darkness license, which means any stories or character representations in those films can be used, but you cannot use anything from the previous two movies. Mm-hmm. And then there's yet another license now for Ash versus Evil Dead.
Sure.
And I
learned a little bit about that with the video game, the recent game. They had all the licenses attached to that.
And I got in a little bit of trouble.
Quite a feat, really, getting all those licenses together.
Yeah. And I got into a little bit of trouble on my run when I referenced the video game with one of my characters, and it wasn't until they got to the art point where they said, oh, you can't do that, and they had to go in and change the name of the character, and they even had to change the coloring of one of the characters.
Right.
The little miniature Deadite buddy that Ash
Ted.
has,
Ted Dorsey.
I actually put him in the comic.
Mm-hmm.
He was I wanted to bring him back because my idea was with my run on Army of Darkness, I wanted to pull in all the different variants of Ash that you had. I was doing variants, by the way, before Marvel did, and I just wanted to reference. I had my idea was that we would take Ash, the comic book version of Ash, and have him have all these different adventures where we would figure out who is the true Ash out of all of them.
Ash Prime.
Right, Ash Prime. And just play with that, and then Ash would be hopping throughout his own timeline via the forces of the Necronomicon, and until he finally get to the end, and you discover who Ash Prime is. And then Nick Barucci, the owner and publisher of Dynamite Entertainment, wanted to introduce a new character to the mythos, being the gender-swapped Ash, referred to as Lady Ash. And I thought, okay, if I introduce a female variant of Ash Williams, what can I do with her that would be, make her distinct besides just being a female, being a woman? And I thought, okay, I know what I can do. She's the exact opposite of Ash, where the Ash Williams that we know and love is egotistical and a complete dullard. She's actually pretty smart and figures things out a lot quicker.
Mm.
And then her origin is different from Ash's origin, because I wanted to do kind of an homage, whereas Ash is, the evil force in a cabin in the woods. The Ashley is the evil alien force found in the pit out in the middle of a field, like the Blob, and that's how she's exposed to more of a mystic, scientifically based version of the evil Necronomicon, and then a third aspect to it. That another thing Nick wanted me to do is he wanted me to introduce Dynamite's version of Deadpool. Wanted me to create a character that Dynamite would have go throughout the different books, and told me, okay, what if we did Ash, but he's not so much a guy, but he's an alien, and we kept calling him in editorial meetings. We kept calling him Dead Fool. But you couldn't use that because then we get in trouble.
Sure.
So I said, okay, how about this? He's Ash. He's like Deadpool, but we're going to combine him with Ambush Bug from DC Comics. And technically, you never hear it in the book, although it is kind of, I put in a joke that no one seemed to get in the beginning. But his name was actually Dead Bug. So Dead Bug is
right.
universes with Ashley and Ash. And
sure.
At the end of the run, there's I brought them all together to resolve the storyline. I had to resolve the storyline a little sooner than I wanted to, but I think it came out okay.
Yeah.
Well, we'll touch on that soon. Yes, we ended up with, of course, after the firestorm, wasn't it? The character ended up the name.
Yes. Well,
and what do we have after a firestorm? Ash?
Yeah. I love that part. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, you did have your start in the franchise co-writing the second Army of Darkness Xena crossover. What again? With Brandon Jerwa? Pronouncing that right? Jerwa?
Yes.
Which was released between 2008 and 2009. Can you tell us a bit about working together with Brandon and bringing the characters from these two franchises together?
It's fun because Brandon and I met like years previously when he was writing G.I. Joe for Devil's Due. And I remember because I was an intern at Devil's Due, and I would keep hearing all the time, because Brandon lived in another state, and I would get his scripts, and everyone would talk about, hey, we've been talking to Brandon on the phone, Brandon this, Brandon that. I was going, oh, Brandon's like this big shot, right? He's like the guy, doing G.I. Joe, which I actually wanted to write at some point, But I finally got to meet him at Dragon Con in Atlanta a few years later through a mutual friend, Dan Jolly, who's another writer who really helped shepherd me along my path as a comic book writer. And I remember the first time I met Brandon, I go, oh, you're the guy that everyone was talking about. You don't seem like such a big deal. And I was just messing with him, and the moment he saw me, he went to Dan. He goes, "I like this guy." That's kind of like the relationship we had. We're like brothers, and just like messing with each other. So Brandon really knew I wanted to break. He knew I really wanted to break into comics, and he was trying to help me find the right place to get in. I'd already gotten familiar with a lot. Again, the folks at Dynamite. Joe Rybant, who was like their editor-in-chief there, and Brandon had to take over the conclusion of the first Xena Army of Darkness book from John Layman. John Layman, who's known for writing Chew, won an Eisner Award for that. He's doing a lot of stuff right now for DC and Marvel. Guys, he's like a big name. Yeah. But apparently he and Dynamite had a little bit of a falling out, and he said, "I'm not doing this." And mind you, they've since mended fences, but Brandon had to step in at the last moment and write the last issue of the first miniseries. So when you read it, it does feel like there's a different writer on this, And Brandon left had some dangling, little plot lines, things that he introduced that were a lot of fun. But to me, I was like, wait a minute, I don't get how that all related to all this.
Mm-hmm.
So he asked me, he goes, well, now they want me to do a second Xena Army of Darkness, but I don't know Ash as well. He was a big Xena fan. He wanted someone who was big on the AOD universe. He goes, would you do it with me? I said, yeah, sure, I'd be happy to. And so we set up the whole bit, because again, this is my first time writing a comic. I said, here's what we'll do. I will write the first 10 pages of the script. So you'd have 22 pages, 4 issues. I'll write the first 10 pages and then the last page of each issue, and you just need to fill in what happens between page 10 and page 22. So it was a fun little exercise where I would set up the premise, and then he's got to pick up from there, and then he's got to hit that last scene, whatever I set up on the last page. And it was fun because we would have little talks, and I would try to figure out ways to set him up and see what he would come up with, and he would come up with some brilliant stuff.
Yeah.
Until we even got to the final issue, and I did the same thing, and we had to have this conversation. He went, okay, I know I'm doing this, but he goes, you tell me, how would you think the story should end, or what are we trying to set up here? And we had a nice conversation about what would bring the entire thing to its conclusion. For folks who haven't read it, I had to come up with, well, not that I had to, but I wanted to come up with an explanation for why everything happened in the first series. Because, again, things seemed a little disjointed, and then hooking it up to this one, saying, okay, this is what happened here, what happened here, what happened here, what happened here, and all this is why we tried to put a through line on everything. Plus, we had to play with the conceit that Ash and Autolycus are identical. They look the same.
Yeah.
It's like,
play with
what
that.
can we do with that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we introduced this whole idea that Gabrielle, because of the skewed timeline that was introduced by the end of the first miniseries, Gabrielle has a son. But we don't know if it's Ash's son or Autolycus' son.
Right.
And again, this is kind of an alternate timeline deal by the second miniseries, where things are just going really awry, and the entire Xenoverse is just turned into something utterly different, because the concept of a S-Mart was introduced way too soon to history. You couldn't have that S-Mart back then. It throws everything off.
Got to be trouble.
Yeah, all that stuff happens. So then and then we later on learn that Xena, earlier on in her career, they refer to, when Xena was an evil warlord of the sort, in the original series, when she actually encountered the Necronomicon for the first time, and has her own dark half version brought out into the world, because she tried tapping into it, but at least for her, it didn't seem to work. But we find out later that it did work, and there's a dark Xena out there doing stuff. And then so we were able to play with that until finally Ash has to figure out how to fix everything and then bring all the timelines back in order again.
So did you have any discussions with is it Scott Lobdell before writing the sequel Forever and a Day?
No, because I myself, I've only had conversations with only 2 other AOD writers. Because, James Gahorik, who's a great guy. When I took over the book, he messaged me and said, "Hey, congratulations, good job, good luck, go for that." Which is I always feel kind of weird when you're taking over for somebody else, and you're like, eh. And I always I wanted to write the books as respectful as I could of what happened before. So I read all the Legion of Light stuff that they had done in the previous books, and then Steve Niles, who took over after me. Who was although he approached me when I was running on the book because he wanted to do a crossover with one of his properties and AOD. So we had some conversations there. So then when he takes over and does, I want to say Ash gets hitched. I think that's his
okay.
his, bit.
Yeah, yeah.
And there was
I knew the name rang a bell.
right, and then I got pulled back in for the Army of Darkness anniversary special, and then the election special. That
Yes,
they asked me
yes,
to write.
that's right.
And somewhere in there, oh, that's right, because between writing the AOD Xena crossover, where Joe, our editor, said, "Okay, I'm reading your scripts. I can't tell where Brandon ends and Elliott begins."
That's good.
You know,
That's good.
Our sense of humor was so similar, and our style
Yeah,
was just so similar.
Gelled. Yeah.
Yeah, we gelled
Yeah.
really well. So that after he said that, he goes, "Oh, this is this. I'll show you it." Or he told them, "This is the pages I wrote. These are the pages Brandon wrote." That's what got me. That's when he asked me first to do a one shot. I did Montezuma's Revenge.
That's right, which was issue 18 back in the second volume. Yeah.
Yes, that was it was supposed to be a fill-in issue, and I didn't know at what point it was going to run. But they've said okay, so it had to be like a standalone that could happen at any time, which is why I played with the idea of Ash actually being a supporting character in this story as opposed to the hero. So he gets pulled in from out of nowhere to clean up the mess that's already been made. And then after writing that, they asked me. That's when they asked me to write the Ash Saves Obama miniseries, because this was back when everyone was doing a Barack Obama comic book, and this was like I thought it was like near the end of the whole Obama comic craze, and at one point I thought, well, Nick really liked the idea of doing it, but it was taking a while to do it. We were getting there, and then I thought Nick was going to drop it, but he went, no, we're going to do a Barack Obama Army of Darkness comic, and I was like, okay. I said, how can we do this, and it just not be ridiculous? So I played with the I played with the idea. The Ash Saves Obama is my take on ridiculous crossovers. So when dumb crossovers take place, what happens to them?
Yeah.
And so I was trying to be very self-aware about that. But it's funny because when we were working on Xena Army of Darkness 2, I wanted to call it, it's called Xena Army of Darkness 2 What Again?
Yeah.
The original title was supposed to be the original title was supposed to be What Again? Because we all know sequels suck.
Oh, what a missed opportunity.
It's like, come on, let's just call it that.
Come on.
And I wanted Ash Saves Obama. I wanted to call it Hail to the Chief, baby. But again,
that works.
The marketing of it, it's like you want to say that when Obama's in it, because everyone was doing. You had Barack Obama appear in that Spider-Man comic, which went through the roof. The thing sold how many, a million copies or whatever. And I was very fortunate that I got to have Ariel Padilla do the artwork on the inside, and Todd Nauck did all the covers. And Todd Nauck, of course, did the famous Barack Obama Spider-Man cover. So, I mean, how am I going to complain? How am I going to complain to that? So it was fun. It was a lot of fun. And even Joe told me afterwards, he goes, you know what? He goes, you took a pretty dumb idea and you made it work.
No, fantastic. Yeah, absolutely. Back on Xena, just quickly, you mentioned that you weren't really a fan of Xena prior to writing that. You weren't really.
Not that I wasn't the fan, I just wasn't as steeped in her mythology.
Okay.
I would watch
tune in weekly, sort of thing.
Right, yeah. I mean, I had friends who loved Xena. Everyone loved, and I thought, oh, she's pretty cool, but I just didn't know her as well as others. So then that's why I had to go. I did a little research myself, and I would tell Brandon, hey, is this accurate? Is this how it works? Because like when we named her son in the book,
right?
Solon is in the comic.
Solon,
yeah. Who is actually her son in the series, at some point. But it's not the one from the series. It's an alternate timeline where where it occurs, and then you'll see at the end of the miniseries, because again, it's Gabrielle's kid, not Xena's, and Xena even thanks Gabrielle for naming her son that, and I was like,
sure, it's like a tribute.
It's like I wanted to play a little bit with that whole thing, but I wasn't as steeped in it. I thought the character's great, but mind you, I also love Lucy.
Yeah, for sure.
She's great.
Back when Xena and Hercules was on, I definitely watched those a lot. But
I especially love when Lucy Lawless lays the smackdown on Kevin Sorbo on social media.
Yeah, always good.
Couple of things I noticed too. When they're going through like time and space, they're ending up within like pages of like various pieces of classic literature, like The Christmas Carol, The Telltale Heart, The Wizard of Oz. Like, I think which issue is that, 2 or 3, where it has the cover with them as like the Tin Man and the Lion and stuff.
Yeah.
Was there like any inspiration behind utilizing those particular stories, or like for you personally?
That was Brandon and I just bouncing things off each other.
Okay.
We were just bouncing things off each other, and he had the idea, hey, let's do this, let's do that. My favorite. My favorite joke that I set up for him, I forget, I think it's in the 3rd issue where they need to break out of prison. They have to break out of where they're tied up.
Oh yeah.
And then Ash looks up and goes, well, one of the characters looks up and goes, well, you don't see that. That's something you don't see every day. And that's how I ended when I wrote. That was again page 10. That's the last line on that panel of that page. So I set up Brandon to tell me what is it that we just don't see every day.
Yeah.
And
fantastic.
I think
That's cool.
Ash and Autolycus riding on the backs of a couple centaurs.
Yeah.
and you're like, and one of them makes a joke that, Autolycus is enjoying it too much, something to the effect. And they're going, oh man, that was hilarious. Like at Brandon,
right.
I would set him up, he would spike it,
Yeah.
So again, so all these other bits, with the other characters bouncing around through time and space, we just wanted to throw stuff at each other, and again, just make it as crazy as we could to have fun with it.
You're riffing essentially. So on Solan, a mystery on who his father is until the very last page. But did you and Brandon have any plans to further expand on his backstory? I guess it's still quite a mystery as to how we got to that point.
It's funny because we were setting up a 3 if there was going to be one. And yes, we did have talks about Solan. We made a joke about it to Nick a while back. Well, this was when we were doing it. And if you read, of course, the first issue of the Ash Saves Obama, you see the very joke that what we were intending on doing, but we wanted to have fun with it,
Excellent. Yeah.
There was the joke is that this new book, Solan, Son of Darkness, is the most popular and successful book in Dynamite Entertainment history, which is again an alternate universe because it went nowhere in real life. So,
oh well.
And then, another thing about that is because I had put in a bunch of my artist friends, and I was putting in different cameos from other comic book artists and writers, and having things happen to them at the convention, and the licensor, because I had to, this was me getting accustomed to working more with a licensor. That you might think it's fun, joke is funny. Your editor might think it's funny. Heck, even your publisher might think it's funny. But when the licensor, whoever it is for the license, is reading it, if they don't think it's funny, it doesn't get to stay. So I had to take out a bunch of things.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of stuff I had to take out. I had a James Spader joke I had to take out. And and I had to take out all the references to other writers and other artists, even though they knew me and they had no problem with putting me in them. So that's when I just put Brandon and myself in there.
Yourself, I think. Brandon has to kill you at one point.
Brandon ends up strangling me. Yes. I thought that would be. I said, okay, you know what? I've always wanted to die in a horror movie. So boom, I got to put myself. I get killed in an Army of Darkness story.
Brilliant.
Pretty sweet.
Well, that's it. So that led, of course, to you working on Montezuma's Revenge, as you mentioned earlier. And that was issue 18 in the second volume, back in, I think, 2009 as well, released after the Hellbillies and Deadnecks storyline. I noticed that it's one of the few storylines in that volume that isn't directly connected to the overall story arc that's going on there, serving as more of a standalone issue, as you said. It also serves as a bit of a prequel of sorts to Montezuma's appearance later on in the ongoing series, which we can talk about a bit later. But did you have the choice to continue the story where Hellbillies left off? Or were you given the creative freedom to do your own standalone story?
Well, I was asked just introduce the female Ash and the Dynamite Deadpool. So I thought that was a lot already, and to try to do it within the tone of what had happened before was kind of going to be tricky for me. Mm-hmm. Mind you, I really love that series. I love that conclusion, and I'm jealous I didn't get Scott Cohn, who's did the cover for my one shot. It's like one of my favorite covers.
That's pretty sweet cover.
I was asked for a suggestion. What should the cover look like? I said, and he did exactly what I asked. I said it's like the cover from the comic, from the movie, but instead of a medieval background, he's like in front of an Aztec temple. Yeah. Looking like he's on vacation. And that's like representative of the whole of the story. But I don't know. Again, the storyline for what it was, I didn't want to mess with it. I don't want to mess with another artist's work. Like if someone wanted to take my stories and run with it, I guess I'd be okay with it. Yeah. But because I also think they probably could do better than I did. But still, I wanted to be respectful of what happened before me. And just kind of do my own thing. Apologies if my dog.
You're good.
He's fine. Welcome, dog.
But I love that cover. That is like my favorite. I even
it's up there.
I told Scott. I told him on Twitter, man, you did a great cover. Thank you so much for that. He goes, I did.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was my book, dude.
So. What was sort of your inspiration behind his kind of adventures there? He's brought to Las Nalgas, Mexico, by a shaman who's summoned the Chosen One.
See, the idea, and that's something that I would play with later on my own run, is this whole thing that the Chosen Ones, I mean, that's like a common theme that happens all the time in, like, you saw that in Buffy, you see it in all these other franchises. But my idea is that with every different genre of horror, you have a chosen one. So, like, like in this particular issue, it's a separate, it's its own thing. Like, it's in the Army of Darkness Evil Dead universe, but it's where the Kandarian demons manifest themselves in a different aspect, in a different way. And in this way, they do it, using the culture of, the Aztecs, the Mayan culture. That's where they find their way into the human world, through that area. So you see the kids, or the young folks, who kind of are parallel to how Ash and Jennifer and all the his friends from Evil Dead, they're kind of parallels to that, but they're like Mexican versions.
Right.
But of course, it goes wrong. It just they completely drop the ball. All of them, the Chosen One. The Mexican version of Ash is just as dumb and conceited as the Ash we know, and that ends up pretty much killing him and turning him into a Deadite. So the mystic old man has to, as he sees in the book, he calls upon the gods to see, can they send him another one? Can another hero come to help them? So he rolls the dice and he thinks, okay, I've got to find somebody. We've got to get somebody. We got to get someone who's better than this. And then he meets Ash, and he goes, "We're screwed. This guy's just as bad as the guy, the kid that got killed." And then, of course, hilarity ensues.
Excellent.
But that's the theme is, and the theme is always to me, just because you're the chosen one doesn't necessarily mean you'll fulfill your destiny. Doesn't mean that things are always going to go your way. Sometimes they can go the exact opposite direction than how they should go, and I play with that throughout my run.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I thought there was definitely like some pretty funny spots throughout Montezuma's Revenge, especially with like, you know, needing a virgin for sacrifice, and you know, oh, you know, we had a bottle of tequila, and over here in Jimmy's, you know, I'm like, oh, what's going on here?
Well, I don't know if you noticed too, but they're really supposed to be the Latin version of Archie, Betty, and Veronica.
Okay.
So that's who I had in my head. They're like Archie, Betty, and Veronica, because one's a blonde, one's a brunette, and
yeah.
they both like the main guy. And yeah, and that was the whole joke, because I had to. My problem was, as I was writing this, I had way more story that I wanted to put in it, but you can only do so much in 22 pages.
Yeah.
And before I know it, I'm like pouring towards the end. I go, it's like I got to wrap this up. And so if the ending seems a bit abrupt, it's because I was on a roll. I was like, oh crap, I'm running out of time. And I tried to come with a natural point of it going boom from there, plus using it to set up another story should it come to it.
Another story, exactly.
There was a thing that Chris Claremont would do on his X-Men runs, where he would do like a long run. He would do like 6, 7, 8 issues of an ongoing story arc, and then in the middle of all that, he would like drop a single issue that would be like something that was going on, and then he would revisit that, like Days of Future Past, right? Days of Future Past is just one boom, and he just drops that in like as an idea. And then he sets it up, and then maybe somewhere down the line he'll go back to that. And then he did another time. He did it with that the character Nimrod, you know, the Sentinel type robot that goes after, you know, the X-Men. He did that as well. And I was like, I'm going to do that. I'm going to do my number of issues here. Then I'm going to drop something here that I can revisit later on when I through running this particular plot thread through, and then I can go back to it. Unfortunately, I only got to do that twice, and there's one plot thread that I really wanted to pick up again that I didn't get a chance to, but, you know, it is what it is.
Well, and I really want to ask you about that, absolutely. But just quickly, the Montezuma's Revenge did lead to Ash Saves Obama in 2009 as well. We've touched on that before. Not being American myself, as you may have guessed, I was surprised to see some of the negative reactions to this series, given the political undertones. Did you receive backlash from fans who didn't exactly agree with Obama's views, shall I say?
Well, it was really early on in the administration at that point. I did get some. I got a couple folks who said, well, the first negative reaction, and you got it. It was the whole, okay, enough with Obama in comics anymore. We're tired of it. And again, folks, I was there. I said the same thing. I was like, guys, come on. I think this is kind of done. I think, you know, this train has reached the station. You know, I don't know if it's going to go any further. But, you know, again, you know, hey, if my boss wants me to do something and I think I can do it, I'm going to do it. I mean, at one point I was like, and mind you, that version, okay, it was supposed to be a one-shot. Okay? And then they said, okay, now we want it to be a mini-series. We want a 4-issue mini-series. I'm like, oh, man. The idea that I had previously was I was not going to be able to make it fill out into 4 issues. So for folks who haven't read it, in Ash Saves Obama, the Necronomicon, so to speak, is found at a comic convention in the form of a comic book.
Yeah.
You'll see in the very first issue, in the first 2 pages, you see that the Kandarian demons have been torturing this artist and making him create a graphic novel version of the Necronomicon, and they will use that, like get that out into the world, so that when like kids are reading it, that's going to open the portal and help them get through. So the one issue that ends up, being made and makes its way into the hands of a comic dealer in Detroit, and just follow that, keep going. So with that, I was able to say, okay, I thought Ash goes to a comic convention. There's a comic book that's the Necronomicon. That'll be it. We're going to make fun of the fact that everyone's doing Obama bobbleheads. Everyone's doing Obama comic book crossovers. Yeah. We're going to have fun with that, and that'll be it. And then it's like, no, well, we want this to be a 4-issue miniseries. Okay, I cannot stretch that idea over 4 issues. So I said, okay, let's start. Then I said, let's poke fun at, sequels and crossovers that are done just for the money. Let's just poke fun at them and go boom, boom, boom. And then, and this was the other thing, because I didn't get so much in trouble as much as my publisher was a little bit concerned that Obama appears in the very first issue, right? Mm-hmm. You don't see him in issue 2 or 3.
Right.
Okay? He doesn't come back until the very end. Yes, we allude to him. I mean, it's not like we've forgotten about it, but we allude to him. I wanted to put Ash front and center, in the middle, blah, 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 and all the stuff that he's dealing with. And then we'll bring him back at the end. And I even told Padilla, I said, we're going to treat Obama like the shark in Jaws, where you're not going to see him until the very end. And you don't. You do not see Barack Obama. You hear him. He appears off camera, off panel, or, parts of him, or you see his hands in the beginning, right, but you don't actually see him until the very end. And it's like, and they were like, well, John Suntress, of Word Balloon, the comic podcast here in the States, asked me, he goes, did you have to do that because of licensing, or you were concerned about using his image? And I said, no, I did it because, 1, I thought the idea of Obama appearing in every issue sounded dumb, and 2, I wanted to make it was poking fun at how when presidents appeared in comic books when we were kids, you never saw their faces.
Oh, really?
It's like you always said there was a shadow,
like the back of their head or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I noticed too that like Ash doesn't technically meet Obama in the story either.
He meets the Obama
Man, right?
From Obama, yes.
Yeah.
Obama, comic book, yes.
Yeah.
Right. And again, and that was my theme too. It's the whole, because it's Ash saves Obama, right? But I wanted to make it, it's not that Ash saves Obama or even Obama saves Ash. It's that when everyone works together, we all save each other, which is what they Maya, the girl character in this one, pretty much says that at the end. And I liked, to me, I just wanted it to feel a little more plausible. I could have gone farcical. I could have done a crazy thing. Because the original idea, when it was supposed to be a one-shot, was essentially going to be, it was going to be Escape from New York, but in the Evil Dead universe. Right. And that would have been Ash has to go into the realm of the Deadites to rescue Obama, to retrieve Obama from the realm of the Kandarian demons. But then he finds that he didn't bring back Obama. He brought back a Kandarian demon that looks like Obama, and he's plunged the United States into hell, Yeah. And then again, but then hilarity ensues.
Yeah.
And in the beginning, it's like in the very beginning, Ash has like these crack troops, and he's got a whole like Navy SEAL type, squad with him, and they just barely make it out alive with the Obama, the first one. Mm-hmm. And then when he discovers he brought back the wrong guy, he tells him, I've got the wrong guy. We've got to go back. But nobody believes him. So then Ash has got to go back on his own to bring back Obama. And that would have been, at best, would have been a 2-parter.
Yeah. And you mentioned the Solan's Son of Darkness Easter egg. The whole story definitely feels more self-referential and meta than your other work. Isn't meant to be taken too seriously overall, really.
The story itself. Yeah, we were just there are things. It's funny. There's so many things that kind of start as a joke that after a while people start taking too seriously, like the Beastie Boys. You know, it's like, I mean, the Beastie Boys, these guys weren't legit rappers in the beginning. They were just doing it as for fun, you know. For
That's
kids,
my favorite kind, man.
right? But then everyone kept saying, "Wow, you guys are really good." And they started taking themselves seriously, and next thing you know, boom, they're big. So to me, a lot of this stuff was I could see it getting bigger if we started taking it more seriously, but I never really got. For me personally, I never got to that level with it.
Sure.
I also like noticed that you kind of incorporated a lot of like Three Stooges kind of like style humor in the story too.
Yeah.
And is that like a nod to Sam Raimi's influences in the movies?
Definitely. I even put in a reference to Shemp and the Three Stooges in my my short story in the Army of Darkness anniversary special. So yeah. Oh, by the way, I saw in your comments, Katie asks, have you guys thought of doing one with Ash with Trump? I haven't been back on the book since, but I will have you know, the Ash election special, I was essentially putting Ash in as Trump. To me, Ash was the Trump character in the whole thing, and lo and behold, I predicted the 2016 election.
It was part of the Patriot Party. That's what it was, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And I was having fun with it. I was like, oh, what if Ash? Because that was another one. Let's have Ash run for president. I'm like, oh, really? Can we do that? And then I was I was going, wait a minute. Okay, I can see that happening. And again, it's Ash doing it not because he wants to, but it's like, he's got to try to do it for an alternate purpose, but then he falls in love with the idea of actually being president because even he is surprised that people will vote for him. So,
Beautiful. The Necronomicon. I think we can move on to your ongoing series. That was released in 2012, 2013, eventually running for 13 issues. Firstly, I've always found it odd with the trade paperback releases of this series that the the second volume has always been available, collecting issues 8 to 13. It's always been in print, whereas the first volume, Hail to the Queen, Baby, has been out of print for quite a long time and is hard to find.
Yeah.
Any idea there why?
No, I wish I could. No? I wish I could say. I know that one is hard. I mean, I can't find it myself. I get asked about it. I even have the second one here. That first one, whenever I would get copies, if I'd go to a convention, I'd have copies. People would, buy them up because you can't find them. So I wish I had some insight as to why, because I do get asked a bit about it, especially when you consider that first part really sets up the story of the second half. And it's kind of odd. I mean, it's on me that that my run is 13 issues. It was going to stop at 12. Because then that would have made two nice, bookends, 2 trades, 6 issues each. But I kind of wrote myself into a corner, and I was like, I told my editor, I don't know if I can really, and again, props to Joe, who was always supportive. I said, I don't know if I can resolve this in an issue. Can you just give me one more issue? And he went, sure, you got one more issue. And that's why, boom. And even that last issues, we go through so much stuff. Like, there's all this expository dialogue in the middle of this great big fight.
Right.
But I needed the boom, boom, boom. That was the point where I was like, pretty much, boom, flipping over card after card after card after card after card to see what we were setting up.
So, can you tell us more about the multiverse Ash and the Hell Dimension and your inspiration behind his Hand of Sheba?
Yeah. There was that again was supposed to trying to set up what would be the big climax. That Ash, Ash. Okay, first, the Ashley, the female Ash, is the only one who can see what's being played here. Okay, so we're experiencing, the torture that Ash Williams goes through her eyes, until finally she gets pulled in, and I thought, wait a minute, Ashley, what if Ashley isn't so much? She's got a dark half like Ash, like she's like that Ash that never splits off from her dark half. So there are times when she's her, and there are times when she's, evil Kandarian demon Ashley. So we flip back and forth with her, and I was hoping that some readers would go, whoa, what's going on here? I don't get it. We never saw this. We never saw that. So then that way I can come back and say, okay, this is what we're trying to set up with her. So so with that, the whole bit with the multiverses of Ash, that also came because Dietrich Bader, who was the Dietrich, he wanted to draw a ton of different Ashes. He wanted to do like the multiverse army of Ashes. So when he finally gets to do it, he goes, okay, here's a page where you can draw them. He went, thank you. He draws Ash with an afro and and all these different versions. So that was my tap to Dietrich, who, by the way, man, I loved working with him so much. When he did that pager when we're on the Nazi sub and we see Hitler's occult group that is seeking out the Necronomicon.
Right.
Because I'm a huge Indiana Jones fan, and I might never get to do Indiana Jones. I said, we're going to do an Indiana Jones style adventure, but with Ash. That he did that so perfectly, and I wanted to, pick up that thread and run with it more. But yeah, the multiverse gave us a lot of flexibility, because then what would happen is I'm already thinking, when I'm no longer writing this book, someone else is going to pick up the ball and run with it, and I don't want them to feel indebted to whatever I've done. So it's like they can do their own version, and it'll make perfect sense because we already know that there are all these different versions of Ash. So it's kind of like it's sort of a reset button for the next group that comes along. And, and that was hopefully also my way of kind of explaining why, even when you read all the Army of Darkness series, all the writers, we don't mess with what came before us, but let's be honest, some of the stuff doesn't quite jive, things don't quite connect. So it's like, it's just, hey, it's all different stories with the mythos, and there are different versions out there.
Exactly, and different timelines and different universes. Excellent. Now we did touch on Ash's half deadite friend Ted, who you mentioned is a bit of a tribute, if you will, to the Sam character from Evil Dead Regeneration, another a weapon of sorts that Ash attaches to his stump at one point, like a Gatling gun, a minigun.
Yeah.
That was very reminiscent of the Evil Dead Regeneration game as well.
That's where it came from. That's what it was from.
Yeah.
And I'm surprised they let me do that, because again, that was something that was not from the movies, but I wanted to do a bit where first Ash had multiple weapons that he could do. I got that idea from the video game. So let's do a bit where Ash can do. He's got a Gatling gun. He's got a hammer. He's got, again, his chainsaw. He's got all these different weapons that he can just click in, click out. And then at one point, I was told to kind of cool it. So like, but it's cool. It's so cool.
Absolutely.
I mean, I don't know if anyone got the bit when he uses the Gatling gun for the first time. He's like driving his car, and his car was all souped up too, like Mad Max. Stuff that he's able to. He's got his fist, as he's driving the car, but he's able to unhook it from the steering wheel. His hand is still on the steering wheel, but because he's unhooked it, his wrist is free, and he, clicks into the Gatling gun off panel, and then boom, has it in front of him, and can shoot it. And I thought this is going to be such a cool bit, and
it was, and it was.
But no one, I think, another thing that I did get a little bit of a criticism about was the fact that, okay, so this is what we see Ash for the first time in issue 2,
right?
And I'm like, and I made the conscious decision, because we've already had issue 1 with the female Ash. We're gonna have issue 2 be kind of like issue 2, as if everything that happened to the female Ash was happening parallel to, Ash Prime, and we're just going to pick up, boom, like let's say, there was a cliffhanger in the last issue. Now we're picking up from the cliffhanger from the last issue. Had we been focusing on Ash Prime? Because I'm like, we've seen this story so many times. You only need a couple lines of dialogue here and there to explain this, that, and the other. Of course, Ash had a female love interest. Oh, yes, of course he befriended a young boy who thinks Ash is going to be his new daddy. And all that kind of stuff. Yeah. And I was like, we'll play with that, and then we'll toss all that, and then we'll move on to the next thing. So I did get someone go, why, what happened there? What happened with Ash? We didn't get to see what happened before. I'm like, you're supposed to just, come on, it's pretty much cliche. It's like, do you really need to see it again? You just want Ash, Ash kicking ass, right? We went right into the ass kicking, pretty much. That's what we did. Yeah. Be happy.
The one-liners.
Yeah.
Excellent.
I see the wise man turns up in the story, having stayed behind in Ash's time after the events of the first Xena and the Army of Darkness crossover, and also appearing in its sequel, was including the wise men a further attempt to tie all the stories together.
Yeah, I thought he's kind of like my my recurring character. It was interesting to pull him in. I thought, I want to do this thing like when you have TV writers who always work with the same actors all the time.
Right.
David E. Kelly, Aaron Sorkin, heck, Quentin Tarantino.
Yeah, for sure.
They're always working with the same actors.
Mm-hmm.
I said, hey, they're there. Let's pull them in. Let's do stuff with them, And I wanted, again, the whole bit was to build up Ash's supporting cast as well as his rogues gallery.
Yeah.
I wanted to have, it's not just him fighting one big bad at a time. It's like all his big bads are coming together and are like, this dude's been this guy's really pissing us off. We all need to come together to take him out. That would have been the next season of Ash, of Army of Darkness, had the series continued.
Okay, and then I also see the wise man's name is revealed to be Merle, and I don't believe he had been named previously. And then where'd you come up with the name Merle? And then I was kind of talking with Spud, and I was like, man, is Merle a throwback to Merlin? And King Arthur's court, he has Merlin the wizard.
Well, yeah. You see how that was not terribly clever at all. It was so obvious, if you ask me. Because the characters from Army of Darkness, those are supposed to be King Arthur and Merlin, but they don't come out and say it. And I just said, I'm gonna call him Merle. Let's see how many people make that connection. And that was it. Although they would change his name later. I think somebody else would change his name later, which is again fine. It's again all different elements, going all different directions.
I dig Merle.
All different, absolutely.
I like Merle.
Absolutely. You're obviously a film and history buff. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was going to say Merle is
please continue.
Is the George Costanza of the Army of Darkness universe.
Nice.
Brilliant.
If Ash is Jerry, Merle is George. So that's how I was thinking of him. Serenity now.
Yeah. That's great. Brilliant. You're obviously a film and history buff. Both Jake and I do love Tarantino films and found the Pulp Fiction references towards the end of the story to be hilarious. With henchmen Emilio and Julio end up becoming Montezuma's right-hand deadites. Montezuma even adopting somewhat of a Marcellus Wallace type persona. You mentioned in your writer's commentary that Colonel Zoc.
No, I'm
sorry, go
sorry.
ahead.
This really touches me that you're getting those references. You're the first ones to actually say that.
Yeah. Oh,
and
yeah.
Like,
wow,
they get it.
It was great.
Couldn't miss it. Miss it. You mentioned also in your writer's commentary that Colonel Zoc was inspired by the movie The Boys from Brazil. Please tell us more about incorporating these influences.
Well, it's funny. The bit with Emilio and Julio, yes.
Gold, by the way, that was awesome.
I had like all these scenes written with them too, because I said, I'm going to go full Tarantino with these guys.
Yeah.
The problem is then it became about them, and it's just them talking, and I cannot write dialogue like Quentin Tarantino. I might find it entertaining. I'm not sure readers would find it as entertaining. Add to that, it's adding pages to a story that we just need to moving along. So yeah, I wanted to pull in different elements, like the Ash Saves Obama bit. I actually that was I had an entire scene written in the style of Aaron Sorkin with Obama, and his chief of staff at that time was Rahm Emanuel. Rahm Emanuel, who was famously known for swearing all the time. So I had this whole bit where they were in that, and then again it was like, okay, that's not, Elliott, you think it's entertaining. Not everyone's going to find it entertaining. And is it moving the story along?
Yeah.
Not necessarily. So, yeah. There were always bits like, Pulp Fiction.
Elliott Ness.
That one was like almost too obvious for me.
Yeah.
And I actually I consulted a friend of mine. I'm going, am I getting the timeline correct here? I mean, was Elliott Ness really in Chicago at this time when these things happened? And a friend of mine, I even said, would he use this type of language? Like, would you use a word like intel back then?
Mm.
And Eric Troutman, actually, he was my consultant. Eric Troutman, who's done a lot of work for DC Comics, excellent writer. I admire the hell out of him. And he went, well, yeah, I could see that, but that wasn't as prevalent as during this time, ... And then I said to myself, it's an Army of Darkness comic. Jesus, it's not a historical tract. I mean, if people are going to be checking me on things here, then I'm obviously not doing my job. People are not finding it very entertaining that they're going, well, Elliott Ness was in Chicago at this point. I'm like, I mean, come on. I got a picture of Al Capone on the toilet. What more could you ask for?
Yeah, Al Capone was really a big fan of magic shows,
Yeah.
that was a good one too.
I just wanted to have a little fun with it, just, and again, and just play loosey goosey, because like people that would drive me nuts, like with the Indiana Jones movies. Later on, people are like poking at historical accuracy. I'm like,
yeah.
It's an action movie.
It's a movie.
It's a
movie, man.
It's not a documentary, folks.
Yeah. I do appreciate. I did feel like Montezuma's return was kind of like definitely like a one shot, and I did feel like it was kind of like short lived, which was kind of sad. But I did like that he came back, and I feel like, was this like your way of kind of finishing the story almost, or maybe fleshing out him a little bit more?
Pretty much. I did want to, and I wanted to set up, the whole idea is that Montezuma is this villain out of time. As you said, he has these new henchmen. He's kind of like a Marcellus Wallace type.
He even dresses up later in a suit, because he's like, right, like people would kind of find it weird if I was walking around in my god attire,
And I wanted to make him kind of like a crime lord, a Mexican crime lord that would later on. And there's the whole thing about I was making the joke. I made the reference to tunnels like over Mexico into the United States. And the joke was, this was supposed to be like the big blowout ending. was that when Montezuma is bringing his legions, through those tunnels, the smugglers' tunnels that everyone knows exist between Mexico and the States, that when Ashley, the female Ash, gets a hold of the Hand of Shiva, she fires into the tunnels with Montezuma's army, and the blast is so big that you can see it from space.
Yeah.
And that's how I described it in the script. And then I was hoping that the artist was going to pull out and show it from the
zoom
top
out,
of and show that the blast in one end, boom, boom, so big. But they were they couldn't quite set the stage and the amount of time that I gave them. It's I didn't give them enough page space to do a pull out, to show everything. So he made it a really big explosion. But I don't know if people got that it was that big. But, yeah, that
I feel like
I did want to do more with Montezuma, but again, my run was coming to an end. I had to tie up all my loose ends and go for it.
Sure, yeah. Unfortunately, it did seem like Montezuma and Colonel Zock's storyline did seem a little rushed in comparison to what was going on with the Ashes.
There was so much I wanted to do with Zock too. Yeah, I mean he's still
there's
alive.
only so much paper, only so many pages you get to tell the story.
Yeah.
So
maybe if I can get a chance to go back sometime. I know he's still out there.
Yeah.
I mean, him I didn't do. Montezuma, unfortunately, he's gone for sure. But Zock and also Jasper Tate.
Jasper Tate.
Of course, yeah.
The
Pigman.
hybrid pigman.
Pigman.
Born in the stockyards of
Skeletti's henchman, right?
Yeah. That I wanted to do more with him too, but again, he's out there. He's lost in the void, that the Necronomicon, when it spits you through time, he's lost out there somewhere.
Speaking of that, was it hard kind of as a writer, especially managing the various time jumps, time travel, different timelines, and then trying to wrap everything together at the end?
Yeah, because there would be times when I'm hold on a second, I put him here. How do I get him out of there now? And wait, so hold on, because there's that bit where he goes back in time to the 1970s, and you're because he meets up with the two Japanese kids who are
Yuriko and Sako, I think.
Yuriko and Ken, I think.
Ken.
That was
Ken.
That was my homage to Battle of the Planets. You had
Okay.
Ken and so he meets up with them, and I'm I can't have him go through yet another time portal, to come right back to wherever. So I thought, okay, well, what if he doesn't go back in time, but he goes from Japan back to the States, and he goes back to his own home where he knows there's a time portal waiting for him because he remembers the time when he was a kid, and and it's that untold tale of Ash's past where he encountered the Necronomicon forces as a kid.
Yeah,
full circle.
And that's how he comes back. So that's when I got to put the whole thing about Ash being a big fan of when the day the Earth stood still. He's got the poster in his room with the robot Klaatu Verada Nikto, up on there. He's a big comic book fan. He tells his friend, if I ever end up working in retail, shoot me.
Right. Yeah.
So stuff like that. And putting little jokes. Ash is learning, he's learning that he tries to be a tough guy, but he's really kind of a nerd. We see he's really kind of a nerd. So
Right.
So then from there, I was able to get him, but I couldn't even get him to come home. I had to put him again in another level of hell before we can finally get him back home. So yeah, it's I want to do this in a way that's interesting. I think at one point I had to sit down and map everything out.
Yeah,
because I was
I'm sure. I imagine you would.
Yeah, because and you'll get called on it. They'll go, "Oh no, this is what happened here." I'm like, "Yeah, I don't want to be that guy who can't keep track of his own continuity." So I would do that.
Yeah.
Understood. Tell us what it was like working with so many different interior artists for this volume. There were 5 different artists in total: Chris Ivey, Dietrich Smith, Edu Mena, Jose Malaga, and Randy Valiente. All contributed interior art to your series here.
The second series, right?
Right.
Yeah, Dietrich Smith. I call him Dietrich Bader. That's the art. That's the
Dietrich,
actor.
yeah.
No, Dietrich
I feel like
Smith
this did result in a certain visual inconsistency at times, but tell us, what was it like for you working with so many different interior artists?
The reality is I never got a chance to really see the artwork until it was done. I never really knew who was doing it until it was done. And it was the whole, I mean, a lot of these artists were based, like there's some, in other countries. These are artists that do good work, but they work fast. I'll admit there were times when my editors had to poke me for a script. And like, come on, we've got an artist waiting on you. We've got an artist waiting on you. Come on, dude, let's go.
Right.
And I'd be in my own head struggling to get it right, like most writers are like. And but I can't say yes, the look was inconsistent, but man, when I would see what they would do with my script, it's like, wow, that's not bad. The flashback issue, it's a funny thing. The flashback issue, and I'm going to out myself right here. The flashback issue where Ash meets his teen self was actually a page short. I submitted 21 pages. Because when I was numbering my pages, I have this funny thing where I'll do a bit like I overwrite a page and one page will continue on to another. It spills over. So with the spillovers, I lost track of how many actual pages were in the script. And it wasn't until I went back and I went through the script and I went, oh, okay. Oh, wait, hold on. I shorted him a page. You can't tell when you look at the art. The artist did a wonderful job of just like, okay, I can take this, I'll pull this, boom, boom, put that together, and it worked splendidly, worked marvelously. So I could there were times when the artists they really pulled my ass out of the fire.
Sure,
they saved me. That's
great. Excellent.
But
and then I also noticed rereading stuff. The page-by-page writer's commentary of the first 2 issues looked like it was included at the end of the first collected volume. Was that your idea? Your idea? I like that.
Yeah, I told Nick. I said, "Hey, why don't we do this? I want to do like a director's commentary."
Yeah.
And he said, "Oh, I love the idea," and I think he's been doing that since with his books. He has the writers go in. I mean, it was not just the script, but actually. Like I would say, this is the panel by panel. It's like
yeah.
You're there reading. I'm going to give you my commentary as we go. This is what I was trying to go for.
You're like, do you get the reference yet? Do you get it?
Yeah.
yeah.
Like,
hold on, let me look this up real quick. Or like, yes, I got it.
You got it.
Yeah. No, I always like it when artists and writers do that. When you buy those trade paperbacks, and you see the behind the scenes stuff. I love that sort of thing. So I thought, hey, no, I want to do a commentary track, so to speak. But instead of reprinting the script, I think you would reprint scripts later. But I just want you to tell you, boom, boom, this is what I'm trying to do here. And because that first issue, went through a few revisions. Because I was being too clever, or was trying to be too clever. At one point, Joe was saying, "Dude, I can't tell who's talking to who here," because everything was happening in captions, and it was on the letterer to make the captions different enough so you could tell who was who, and then they even would have to color each caption a different color so you would know it was this character, that character, that character. But I wasn't. It's on me. If I'm going to try to do that, I need to make it so that the team that comes after me knows, okay, this is what we need to do to pull it off, and I just wasn't pulling it off. So I had to simplify things, and I think I referenced that in the commentary.
Yeah, you did, yeah, for sure.
It's a learning curve. Dynamite lastly brought you back to write the election special, Ash for President, in 2016. That was tell us about returning to the Army of Darkness universe after more than 3 years since writing the ongoing series. That was 3 years later, I believe. Over.
And I was surprised too because I know, and that was because Joe said, he goes, "You did a great job with Ash Saves Obama." He liked how it came out. Maybe a lot of people didn't care for it, but he liked it. He thought we pulled it off. Oh wait, before I get too far ahead on that, I had set up in Ash Saves Obama. I had set up Ash versus the Terminator was going to happen in issue 2.
Yeah.
I had set it up, and if you read the first issue of Ash Saves Obama, the Terminator is in there.
Yeah.
The T-800 is in there, and I had figured out a way to make it happen in issue 2. And I'm telling you, it got all the way to the art, and then the licensor saw it, and they said, "You can't do that." I'm like, "It was in the script. We drew it for you. Why is it at the last minute, poor Ariel had to redo like 2 pages of artwork?" But it was essentially Ash and a Terminator in a whole Three Stooges bit. That's what it was going to be. And that had happened. But anyway, because I was able to come up with these clever little ways of doing things, Joe said, "We want you to do an election special. Ash runs for president. Do you think you can do that?" And I was like, "Huh." And yeah. And I figured it out. And I'll tell you, out of all the books I've done, that's the one I'm really proud of, that one, because that one came together really fast. And like, I'll read some of my other stuff and I'll go, okay, I dropped the ball there. I wish I'd done this differently. When I go back and read the election special, I'm really pleased with the pacing of it. You know, there are some jokes in there that only uber political nerds like me are going to get. Come on. I compared Douglas Adams and John Adams.
Yeah.
How many people? That's a deep cut, if you ask me. And it was nicely paced, and boom. And I landed the. I think I stuck the landing. And it's funny, too, because, spoiler, like I said, Ash ends up being president by the end of the issue. But that originally wasn't going to be the case. I was going to make it one of the other candidates because I thought it would be too ludicrous for Ash to be president. Mm-hmm. But then 2016 happened, and I think I wasn't crazy enough. So I said, so it made sense. And I'm like, no. And then I think, no, it has to end with Ash as the president. And the way it's setting up at this point, it has to end that way. And I still, in my head, have an idea for a sequel to that particular story if I ever get a chance to go back.
Oh, okay, excellent. I'd love to hear about that. I'll ask about that in a moment. Again, I am foreign though, but my takeaway is that both major political parties are more or less evil, and that power belongs to the people. Am I right?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
I think they're all. I mean, what is when you think about what are horror movies? What are the creatures in horror movies, but manifestations of the things that give us the most anxiety, right?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you look at the Scream movies. That's, you know, the glorification of the slasher and how they inspire, you know, that kind of culture. The Megan movies. That's AI run amok. Yeah. The Purge, right? The Purge movies are class warfare. Right? I mean, I had an idea for a Purge movie where it's like and mind you, this would be the most boring Purge movie ever. Okay, because in my movie, what takes place is that as the Purge is happening, and all crime is legal, including murder. Insider stock trading, left and right, and we're talking. People are getting rich on the stock market. What are you going to do? It's Purge Day. Right?
No rules.
There's no law that we can't break. You know. So there, right there. And then my other idea was, of course, assassinating the president on Purge Day, and it's still legal.
Sure.
I'm not saying any particular president. No, I'm just saying. But that's the thing they don't touch in the Purge movies. It's like it always seems that the only people affected on the Purge movies are the poor
or the regular people.
You never see how, with the exception of the first one. You know, where
I want to see people get rich.
Yeah.
But,
excellent. But the rich are like protected, but still.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, the whole thing. I mean, I'm kind of a, I don't know. My political leanings tend to be pretty centrist, but I do have, I mean, I've got some things, some ideas from the left and the right that kind of percolate in me.
Yeah.
Oh, excellent. Well, we've got some general questions just quickly for you before we move on to any audience questions. Jake.
Yeah. Let's see. I would ask just kind of like what's your, tell us a little bit about like your writing style, or kind of like, because when I look at like writing for me, and I guess it's difficult to kind of like put on, because I have like thoughts of like doing certain things, but for me it's like a very like small scale. So like for you, what's kind of like your approach to writing, like in general? Do you have like a formula, or maybe you have like your typical like way to go about it, for you at least?
Well, it depends on what it is. I mean, if I'm just writing prose, I just want to get down thoughts, it's me blurting stuff out. I would do to a point, like there would be dies, like if you follow me on Facebook, I don't do it as much now because it was like I was putting out content, pretty good content for free. I was like, man, I need to keep this. Someone's going to pay me for this later.
Put a wrap on this.
Yeah. But I would like blurt out stuff. I don't, playing. It would be my idea of, I'm going to try a narrative structure. I'm going to try to tell you a story in a particular way. I would write a few paragraphs, hit that as a post, and see what kind of reactions I would get. And it was just essentially, like, this is something that happened to me. This is how it happened. This is how it affected me. Try to say it in a way that's interesting, more than just, hey, this happened, blah, blah, blah. Because I find when people get into their day-to-day minutia and they give me a rundown of their day, it's not always that. It doesn't always grab my attention.
Yeah.
They do it in a way that kind of engages and entertains. That's what I try to do. If I'm trying to do something like a for-hire thing, I have to work on like the article I did for Playboy, where I wrote an article for Playboy where I essentially argued that the introduction of the game Pac-Man back in the late 70s actually advanced human evolution. And so I had to research it. I had to first come up with my idea, research it, talk to a professor over at the University of Chicago. I interviewed the creator of Pac-Man, and I start taking all these ideas and these facts, and I put them in a big stew, and I look at it, and I go, okay, what do I do with this, and how do I write it in a way where people will want to read it?
Yeah.
That's always the key. That's the one. You might think an idea is great, but if you write it in a way that just doesn't capture attention or make people want to keep going, that's the thing. Ideas are hard, okay, but you can take a great idea and you can kill it with bad writing. So,
Yeah.
So if it's an article, it's that, and then now if it's a script, that one I have to be even more structured. I have to get my ideas together. Essentially, what I'll do is I'll grab a pad of paper. And I'll go, okay, this is where the story starts, this is where it ends, and I come up with little beats that happen throughout and see, does this fit here, does this work here, does that work there, and I shuffle things around, and I go, okay, that doesn't really work, pull that out, maybe that can go somewhere else, With writing a comic book strip, it's like almost like putting a puzzle together, and you have to like get all the pieces arranged the way you want. And again, doing it in a way that is interesting. Although in the case of the comic book script, I have the advantage that I have an artist who's keeping your attention.
Right.
And for the most part, I really try to be spare on like captions and dialogue for things. If the art is kicking ass, then fine. Because it's like, how many times do people really sit down and take in the dialogue on a comic book, right?
Yeah,
no.
for sure.
Unless you're Grant Morrison or somebody, they're not. You're there kind of like to just get the story along. I say I'm not going to say I'm the McDonald's of comic book writers, maybe I'm more of a Five Guys.
Okay.
You know,
Little upper scale.
yeah, a little bit better, but I'm certainly not
fast
like,
food.
yeah, I'm not like you know, I'm not like the steakhouse burger. You know, I'm still here.
Working our way. You mentioned that you watched the movies backwards originally, but did you rewatch them to prepare for writing for the series?
Oh, yes. No,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
wanted
like-
to get. I wanted to get a sense of things again,
Mhm.
and I also did a little more. I went into some of the gaming information, some of the RPG stuff, the Wikipedia pages. For the longest time, I didn't even refer to the demons as Kandarian because I wasn't sure I could, because again of the licensing issues.
Sure.
Kandarian demons are again Evil Dead. Since they're never mentioned by name in Army of Darkness, I wasn't sure I could use them, but I did.
Have to be careful there.
Yeah, I would sneak them in, and no one ever said, "Oh, you can't do that." So I was okay. And again, I had to be careful of what I was using because there are only certain elements of that mythos that I had access to. In the anniversary special, when Ash, I do the Ash in the future. In the very beginning of the story, he has his hand. And I explained how he loses his hand in that story, but then they said, can't do that because that's Evil Dead Ash.
Oh, yeah.
Army of Darkness Ash always has a metal hand. I was like, okay. So the artist had to take that out and just put his metal hand in.
Sure.
So how much of the Army of Darkness comics did you read to prepare to write for the series?
I read most of them. Well,
Yeah.
certainly all of James's stuff, because I'm a fan of his, and I wanted to get a sense of what he was doing leading up to it. And I mean, and again, James was really, his stuff was grittier. If you read my stuff, I mean, he really leaned into the horror aspect as well. If you read my stuff, I was a little more funky, funny. You know, I didn't. Yes, there's some horror aspects to it, but I also didn't have some of the artists I was working in. They weren't doing they didn't do a lot of the grisly artwork, so I wanted to keep it more of an adventure tone, kind of like in the comic book.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm sorry, like in the movie. Because when I see my first encounter with Ash is he's having an adventure. Yeah, you know, even when he fights like that one thing in the pit that they throw him into.
Pit Witch.
Yeah. And then even that is like, yeah, she gets her head taken off, but there weren't a lot of blood splatters and stuff like that. So I said, okay, my tone will be more along those lines. I won't get so gory and I wanted to do a little bit of a psychological bit to it because we learned that Ash is tortured. You know, he is being tortured, but what people don't realize is that when he's not fighting. He's fighting the Necronomicon on multiple levels, not just on a physical plane, but in a psychological plane. And when he sleeps, they're like constantly messing with him.
Yeah.
You know, so that affects his psyche. That's something I tried dropping in later. I don't know if people picked up on that, but that was to me trying to give it another level that was different from what came before.
Well, right, the Necronomicon's locked in a chest, right, throughout like Volume 3. So
yeah,
but yeah. Definitely can tell like the more so kind of like the comedic sense of like what Army of Darkness is with like the essence of like horror aspects to it, which is very cool. Yeah.
I ran into this danger because there's a thing when you're writing Ash and he's fighting, you know, of course he has his quips and he has his one-liners, right? But you can only have him say groovy and you know,
Hail to the king
or whatever. Like
give me some sugar, baby.
Or give me some sugar. Yeah, he you know, he starts sounding again like the video game character spouting off lines over and over.
Yeah.
So it's like I needed to come up with new things that he could say that weren't from the movies, but they had to sound like him. And at one point, I was getting a little carried away, and I was making him sound like Peter Parker, because Peter Parker's always making jokes when he fights. So I was like, no, okay, I need to pull back on that, not do that so much of that. But it's funny, there are two things that I've had him say that I swear they showed up in Ash versus Evil Dead later on.
Yeah.
There are two lines. He says, when I wrote him, I goes, I'll see you on the flip side. He says that in my run. He says it a couple times. In Ash versus Evil Dead, what does he say? I'll catch you on the flip flop. They're going, oh, I know. I'm telling you, someone in that writer's room read my comic. Someone in that writer's room read my comic. Because I said that. And then there was a joke where there's a joke he says in season 1 where the guy says, he goes, what are you, racist? And his companion in Ash versus Evil Dead says pretty much the same line to him. He goes, what are you, racist? Like, these guys have been reading my stuff. I don't want to get paid, but damn it, invite me into your writer's room already.
That's right. An invite. Yeah. With the interior artist, we touched on that briefly. Did you have any choices to who you get to work with at all, or is it just you'll be working with this artist today, this week, this month?
No, but I mean, a part of it was necessity too. Like again, Dietrich Smith, I wanted him. He was supposed to stay on with me for the good run because he's a great artist. But then he was having he had some family problems, some health problems, health issues, and he had to drop out. And then they kind of were scrambling there to find guys to like pick up. And then add to that my own problem with getting the scripts in, like let's say a little early, so that maybe then they'll give me some input, on who's going to do it. It was like, Elliott, if you get us a script here, you put us in a bind where we need to get a kid and to do it, and then go from there. So yeah, I mean, for the most part, had I had some say so, I would have asked that Dietrich stick around a little longer, because he and I really clicked. And there were some scenes that he did. I mean, I thought his likeness of Ash was spot on, too.
I really enjoyed his art as well. Yeah.
So, but I know, again, he had some issues, and we couldn't just wait on him. And we were...
Sure.
My fault. My bad, guys. The book would run late because I was a slow writer. And I think that's one of the reasons why, it's like, this guy's driving us nuts with his process. Maybe we're not going to keep feeding him these assignments if he's not going to get them back to us in a proper amount of time. I mean, if you're Aaron Sorkin, you get away with that because you're a brilliant writer and everyone will wait on you. When you're me, not so much.
Yeah, right.
Did you have any chance to read the newest iteration, Army of Darkness Forever by Tony Fleece?
Not yet, no. I kind of dropped out. I started because afterwards I was reading. Of course, Steve Niles, when he took on, I was reading his stuff. And then after that, Ash went into space. Yeah. And then there were some more bits. Ash, they did another... Oh, the one got me. There was another Xena Army of Darkness crossover. I was like,
Forever and a Day.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, no one asked me about that. I would have liked that. But then again, I did it to myself. So, yeah, I haven't been able to keep up on it. Because also, too... when you're not getting comps like you used to, comics are expensive.
Yeah, they are. Let me tell you.
Yeah. Absolutely. I know you're a big fan of the Indiana Jones franchise. I would love to see Ash and Indy come together in comic form one day. Some time travel, of course, would need to be involved, but that hasn't stopped Ash before, has it? Have you got any thoughts on a potential crossover?
Yeah, that was something I was going to work on, yes. It
Yeah.
wasn't going to be Indiana Jones, but it was going to be like a proto-Indy, like an Indiana Jones type character. That was being set up in my little bit with the Nazis. So
Sure.
that was being set up. And it was an Ashley thing, and Ash, and again, not going after the Necronomicon, but going after the scroll that the Asian, the Japanese teenagers were guardians of.
Yeah.
And so there are all these fun little relics. I'm not going. It all fits together. So yeah, it could have happened. But I mean, again, back to licensing. Lucasfilm is incredibly protective of that. So I'd have to. I mean, you go, this guy seems like indie, but I'd be like, but he's Idaho.
That'd be
Idaho.
Idaho Jones.
Idaho Jones. No, you
Love it.
previously, like you've mentioned the new idea that you have for the series. If Dynamite's interested, would you care to elaborate?
I mean, on Well, it would be hard for me to pick up again from where I left off because, again, Ash has been through so many different things. So that would be tough. But I would think, again, I would, and I don't know if I'd want to do a 12, do a regular series run again. In fact, I'm not even sure that Dynamite does anything beyond extended mini series with the license now. I mean, I think the most I've seen.
Last series was another 13 issue run, but that was the first since yours, I think.
Oh, see, I have like this. Oh, okay, it was 13 because I had what was the second longest run on the series before then. I mean, I know James had the longer run before me, and then and then because when I would see it, seemed like, oh, it's this theme, that theme, that theme, that theme. It didn't feel as cohesive, like a long running thing to me, at least.
Like it did in the early days, yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. So I mean, it seems like the license itself, it could stand to get a bit of a a refresher or a reboot or I don't know. But you're talking to someone who hasn't read it in a while, so
sure. I do feel, and I think many people would agree that the later series, Army of Darkness Forever, certainly did that, breathe some fresh air back into the franchise for sure.
Yeah,
for sure. No, I recommended.
Oh, good. Well, no, for sure, because I mean, I know the problem too that when you run into one of the things that you will run into is some fans who kind of resent it because Bruce Campbell and Sam Raimi have nothing to do with that license. Yeah. They don't necessarily speak kindly about it. So
no,
they kind of feel like you're pooping on their legacy. And like, trust me, I'm a tremendous fan of theirs. And I know when I first when I got the book, I put it out there on social media. I said, Bruce Campbell, I'll tell you what. Just give this book your blessing, and any money I make on it, I'm going to donate it to your charity. Any script, anything I make, I'll do it as a labor of love. I will whatever charity you care for. I never got a response on that, but I hope that people would understand.
Hell of a gesture, though.
Yeah, I mean, I was a tremendous fan, and I still am. And I would not want to do it in a way to I don't want to crap on that legacy. I want to treat it with respect. But again, it's like I was thinking of it like any other IP. Star Trek, Star Wars. You only have it for so long. When you have it in your hands, you want to do what you can with it, but also keep it so that you know that you're only a caretaker for so long before you pass it on to the next person.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And what a job you did over that 7 years or so that you were contributing to this universe. What else are you working on at the moment, Elliott?
Right now, I've been on a bit of a comic book hiatus. Mm-hmm. I'm back into kind of getting my ideas together and wanting to pitch. And right now, my big pitch, I have a pitch right now for Archie Comics that I would like to do. It's an idea that I think I don't want to give away too much, but kind of along the lines of my election special.
Okay.
But something that is reflective of our times, and but not so much making fun of the political process, but kind of like elevating the discourse about it. So I'm hoping at some point to get my pitch document in front of somebody from Archie Comics and see what they think.
Awesome. We do have a question from MCT28. I'm just going to bring that up on screen. Were there any plans for Elliott to continue the Ash Beyond short story from the AOD number? Is that right?
Yeah.
Oh, hello?
No, I got you. Yeah, you broke up a little there, but we got you. Were there plans on my part? Yes. Were there plans on Dynamite's part? I'm not sure. Because when they did that the anniversary special, we were all asked to contribute something. I know that when I wrote it, I was like, "Ooh, we can do this." And if, let's say, enough readers wrote in and said, "Hey, we really like this story. Can we see more of it?" Then Nick would have turned around and said, "Okay, this is what the readers want. Let's give it to them." So I know in my own head where I would go with it. It's just enough people to ask for it.
Excellent.
I mean, it looks like he's going to get killed.
Also,
it looks like he's going to get killed at the end of that story, right? I mean,
Mhm.
how does he get out of that? Really? How?
Another one here was the cameo from Ash vs. Evil Dead's Elagos mentioned in the script of the AOD election special, or was that the doing of the artist?
That was the doing of the artist. Yes.
Mhm.
Because when I wrote the special, I was also told not to reference the television show. So again, when you're on an IP, you can only do so much. So you notice when I write it, I make a reference to this is what I reference his previous adventures, even though I might not have written them. I even reference him going into space, right?
Yeah.
But then you have that bit where when you pull out and you see his room, and like, oh, and I know that's from the TV show. I didn't put that in the script, so I don't want anyone coming after me.
Yeah, hands up.
I liked it though. Don't get me wrong. I liked it. I was like, oh, that's cool.
Sure.
I was here. Oh, great. Oh, we got away with it. Excellent.
Nice. Excellent. I'd just like to point out that this is Jedediah Bolheimer commenting. He's got another one for us. Regarding Solan, is he an AOD-owned character? I guess, is he owned by Dynamite or a Xena-owned character?
Technically, we could have made him a Dynamite character.
Yeah.
Technically, we could have, because it could have been one of those spin-offs. I mean, Brandon and I did want to pitch him as a spin-off of the AOD Xena universe and going from there. But and then maybe making him his own thing, But yeah, that's a good question though. But we pitched it. Nick was interested too. He was like, oh, okay, let's think about it. But then it fell by the wayside. So
I see. No worries. Excellent. Has anyone else got any questions for Elliott while we've got him? I'm like,
you guys are making me go back in time and reliving a lot of things here from that whole bit. I mean, okay, so there was a joke I wrote in Montezuma's Revenge, Jake, and I was afraid I was going to get in trouble for this. But when one of the characters goes, wait, did he just say the buttocks are an entrance as well as an exit?
Yeah.
I was like, there ain't no way that's making it into the book. And yet.
Yeah, surprising what makes it through, isn't it? Yeah.
And at the end, I had a friend of mine go, you got a joke about diarrhea into an Army of Darkness book. I went, huh? I mean, that whole thing at the end was,
Yeah, I know. It was a big eruption.
Yeah, the eruption, which I'm telling you, the colorist did an excellent job on.
Yeah, that was great.
Absolutely, yeah.
Because it's supposed to be like everything is like all this molten gold and lava until the spell, so to speak, is broken, and then it's just mud and dirt, So.
Yeah, and that's a Army of Darkness like comedy that I enjoy.
Exactly. Yeah. And I could Las Nalgas.
Las Nalgas.
Jed continues. He's been saving up some questions for us. The segment in the 1920s mentions Kent Williams and a yet-to-be-born brother. Is Kent Ash's dad or the brother?
Kent is his dad.
Right.
In this reality,
before the days of
his dad.
Before Brock Williams or whatever.
Right. Again, because that will be changed later. But when I was writing it, it hadn't been established yet.
Sure.
So then, so I made Kent, and which explains why when Ash shows up, they think he's his father because he's a spitting image of his own father.
Yeah.
Sure.
So yeah, but yeah, that was meant to be his father, and again, taking a few liberties with that whole thing. That was another plot line where it's the thing where Ash is very much estranged from his own father, and he's learning about him, blah, blah, blah. And then, of course, all that'll get wiped away when the $6 million man comes in and he's Ash's dad, which, mind you, is cool.
Yeah.
Very much. Yeah. No, great casting there, wasn't it? Yeah, for sure.
Definitely. I loved it.
For sure. Mm-hmm.
I think one other thing that we kind of zoomed by, but I did enjoy in the Ash Saves Obama is like at the end they reference to like slabbing comics, but you know the Necro Comic-Con being, you know, once we get them to be super rare, you know, the comic nerds are just gonna bag it, board it, and never read it again.
Yep.
Yeah.
I
like that part.
It's like, how do you stop this thing?
Yeah.
Oh, no, you don't have to worry about it. It's the problem's gonna take care of itself.
Yeah, that was a great way to tie up the loose ends there. It really was.
Yep. No,
It's funny. I picked up this Necronomicon copy, like an imitation. It's very it's comic book size too. You know.
I had proposed that. I had proposed doing an edition of the book like
yeah?
that. Yeah, to
yeah,
make it
right,
look like
right.
the Necronomicon, like a variant of it, but it just I'm just a writer. I wasn't marketing it.
Sure. That would have been great, like a special edition. Yeah, that would have been great.
Because I had to write all my own advertising copy. I don't know if people realize that. A lot of times when you're writing, they'll ask you, I would write my own blurbs, pitching, say what's the next issue, what's coming up next. That would run like in the ads, like say Army of Darkness #6, It's supposed to be a summary, which meant I had to know what was going to happen next. Okay, I got to be ready for this. Okay, hold on. So that sort of thing.
2 steps ahead, really, don't you?
Yeah.
A couple more here. Katie asks, what was your all-time favorite story to work on and your least favorite story?
Well, my favorite only because it was the last one I did and it came out the best, is the election special. That one, I was on my game. I hadn't written for a while. I was a little bit concerned, can I still ride this bike? And but it worked, and it was like, okay, I'm getting this. I got back into the groove on it real easily. And if you've read all my stuff before, when you read that issue, I do make little references to stuff that has gone on before. You're like, oh, and I do a bit where I would pull little bits of dialogue from things I'd done before because they kind of fit in those situations. So I'm very pleased with that. My least favorite has to be the middle, if anything, the middle 2 issues of Ash Saves Obama, because at that point I felt like I was really stretching stuff. Mm-hmm. It was fun. I was throwing in jokes and doing things, but when your own publisher is coming to you and going, we're concerned that you're not taking this in the right direction, then obviously you're not doing your job. So beyond that, everything else, considering I'm really proud of the fact that I went from co-writing a miniseries to doing my own one-shot, boom, to from that getting a mini series that I wrote on my own that was successful, to from that having them say, hey, you're the new writer, you're the new monthly writer on the book, and getting to do it for a year. Wow.
Brilliant. Ongoing.
It blows me away.
Yeah.
So out of all that, were there some stories that I wish I could redo? Certainly. Every writer looks at their work and goes, that probably could have been better. I look at my progression. When I read my stuff, I go, oh yeah, I remember when I wrote that script, what the problem was there. And again, a lot of the problems I made for myself. So, but throughout the whole thing, I've Dynamite, Nick Barucci, Joe Rybant, all those folks there were always tremendously supportive. Of course, they would give me more work after that. I would do, so I'd get to do homies for them.
Oh, yeah.
And
yeah.
And then, and hey, when you get to do Grumpy Cat.
Grumpy Cat, yeah.
When
that must have been fun.
Oh, I'm telling you, when you get to see your work selling next to Harry Potter at a Scholastic book fair, Oh, I mean, you've arrived at that
Made
point.
it.
So I'm appreciative of that. And if there was ever something that didn't go out great, it was my fault. It was pretty much me. But everyone I worked with were always great collaborators. I'd love to do it again.
Frank asks, who would you love to work with, be they dead or alive?
I mean, there's so many great artists right now, and I've met so many of them. I mean, there are a lot of guys local. Tim Seeley, who is a local artist here, he did all the covers for Army of Darkness.
I just met him on the Pharaoh World Tour in Naperville.
Yeah, great guy. I've known him for
sure.
years, but he's also a great writer. So I would hate to saddle him down with me. He's just such a great writer. I mean, I remember when I knew him. I met him when I was interning at Devil's Due and Hack Slash. He first created Hack Slash.
Yeah.
And
I remember crossover as well.
It was an incredible series, but I remember going, okay, you guys are marketing this wrong, because when I look at these covers, the cover gives a completely different tone than what the books actually are. And it would be later on, you would get a sense of what Hack Slash was. But again, great writer. Also, Mike Norton is another local who's really great. Oh, the issue number 4 of my book, the cover where Ash is wearing the Evel Knievel outfit, and he's eating the little tiny ashes with chopsticks. Tim did that on his own. He would draw these covers with some suggestions, whatever was going on, but he would do them on his own. I loved that cover so much, I ended up changing what happened in the book just so I could incorporate all that into the story.
Yeah, with Yuriko, right, having like all the cosplay stuff, and he's like, I want to be the king, but the tailor was tailored too small or something, so he had to be Evel Knievel.
Yeah, he goes, sorry, dude, it won't fit you, but you can be Evel Knievel, right? And
that's awesome.
Yuriko's Kato, which I thought a female Kato would be.
But
so originally in the story, what's supposed to happen is that they have a fight with the Deadite ninjas in the Japanese museum, where a giant T-Rex skeleton comes to life because of the Necronomicon brings it to life. So it's like a giant zombie T-Rex. And we were supposed to have like this big Godzilla type scene where they're running from this T-Rex through the streets of Tokyo, But then Tim drew this, and I'm like, okay, no, I got to do that. Now, had he done the Godzilla cover, I would have stuck with the original ending. But when he did that, I was like, okay, no, we got to do something with this. So it was easy enough. I mean, it was only like 4 pages of rewrites that I had to do.
Yeah.
Would you say, Elliot, that sort of answers this next question? Besides Montezuma's Revenge, which cover is your favorite? Is this one of your favorites?
It is one of my faves, but the one before that Tim did with Ash, like in a kimono, he's like in a meditative pose, and the chainsaw, that one.
Good. That one's good too.
That was perfect. That was perfect.
Yeah.
Mind you, that doesn't really happen in the comic book, but it's a great vision. It's a great.
But it's a great image, isn't it? Yeah, absolutely. Lastly, Jed has asked you. This is an interesting question. You discussed MGM asking for changes with the stories, but how much control did Universal have when you were doing the Xena crossover?
Well, the licenser, mind you, they have someone in the licensing department who's got to read the script and say what you can do. So, there are a bunch of jokes that had to go because the licensing wouldn't allow, I couldn't reference characters outside of any characters that were licensed. And there was this weird thing at that time where I could have sworn, because I did a little research and I said, wait a minute, this license is owned by so-and-so and they also own this. like, we should be able to pull that in there. That's like the Terminator joke. I wanted to pull that in because while they didn't have the Terminator 1 license, they had the Terminator 2 license. So I thought, I can do that. I mean, it's not like I'm pulling from outside, but they were like, no, you have to stick with either Xena or Army of Darkness. You cannot start bringing in characters from outside. And that was pretty much what they were saying. Because again, with the Xena thing, it was again supposed to be ridiculous crossovers. So you see people coming together that why? I mean, okay, in issue 3, the Ghoul Smashers were the Ghostbusters, right?
Sure.
And the costumes originally, they looked a little more like the Ghostbusters. We didn't call them Ghostbusters, we called them Ghoul Smashers. But I guess they didn't look different enough. The licensor said, nope, can't do that. And then Ariel had to go back and he had to put berets on all the characters, so they look more military as opposed to like janitors with backpacks, right? And so I was just saying, okay, I get that, but still,
it seems to be how the licensor is feeling on the day as to what you can and can't get away with.
Exactly. And when the stuff's gonna, if the book sells like 10,000 copies or whatever, that's one thing, right? If it sells 100,000 copies, I can see where I could get into trouble. But I wasn't foreseeing it getting to those levels, and no one at the point when you finally saw it, it wasn't like people pointed out, hold on, what happened here, what happened there. So I know it because I was behind the scenes. I know what I wrote in the script. I know what the intent was. I know what it looked like initially when I saw the artwork, and then later on it gets changed. So,
Yeah, excellent. Lastly, I don't want to keep you. We're aiming for less than 2 hours, but here we are going over. Lastly, Katie's got a great question to end with. Are you planning to be a guest for 25 at any cons? Are we going to see you at any conventions next year? Well, probably not myself, unless you're visiting, planning a trip to Australia anytime soon. But
hey, if there are any Australian cons that want to fly me down there, I'd definitely go.
Sure.
No, but I'll be honest, I did not attend any in 2024 because I was still getting over the anxieties from COVID, and my regular job had me in a lot of contact with people, so I couldn't afford to get sick. Like at a convention, because I would always get sick at the convention. Always. And like all my comic convention, all my fellow comic pros, they go to conventions. The first thing I see on their Facebook page is how they got sick. Oh, I caught COVID. I got this. I got that. Also, depending on which con you go to. Like you go to Florida, you're almost guaranteed to get COVID when you're down there. So what are you gonna do? But 2025, I definitely would like to get back into things. It's been a while since I've had a reason really to go. If I can get a pro badge, I have been doing other events. I've been asked to MC different things at other events, but I would like to get back into Comic Cons, especially since if you want to pitch to companies and stuff, you got to be a face that they know. And there's been so much turnover in the industry. Like, I don't know anybody at Archie. Like I said, I want to talk to Archie, the Archie folks. I don't think anybody there knows me by face, so I'd have to have some face-to-face time with them. So long answer short, yes, I would like to go. If you would like to invite me, I will consider it for sure. Especially if you want to take me to Australia. I've never been.
For sure. Keep an eye out, everyone. That'd be great.
I have a question for you real quick.
Me?
I
wow. Here we go.
Had a chance to talk to somebody from Australia. And this
go ahead.
This is an incredibly dumb question. You've probably heard this one before, and so forgive me because I just need to hear it from an Aussie. Do toilets really flush counterclockwise in Australia?
They do. Our water swirls counterclockwise. That's right.
It does.
It's a Southern Hemisphere thing.
Real.
Yeah. It is real.
Okay,
The Simpsons were right. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. They certainly took liberties with our culture, but that was one of the things they got right. For sure.
All right. I always wanted to know. So thank you.
We call them cane toads as well. They're not Shazwazzers or anything.
Okay.
Gallery dues.
And our beer cans are the same size as yours, you know.
No, y'all have good beer. I've had that beer.
Yeah, dude, it's not bad, not bad. I love it. Thank you for that. That's great. Excellent. Well, that's awesome. Thank you so much, Elliott. I love your work, really, and thank you so much for joining us today. And also, thank you to those who have tuned in live or are watching after the fact. A special thank you as well to Jake for helping me out today. I really appreciate it, bud.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been awesome.
Thank you.
Well, I appreciate the invite. I know, of course, I've been following your page and all that. I appreciate the support that you give to the books, to the creators, and I'm keeping that thing going. I hope, I certainly hope to see more of that IP coming from Sam and Bruce. I was really disappointed with how the last Ash versus Evil Dead series kind of just it came to an end. I know they were hoping that it would go longer.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how Evil Dead Rise has been doing as far as I know streaming and what kind of reception
box office
it's
it did well.
Yeah. So I'm hoping it keeps going, at least so that this sort of thing. There's so many other horror IPs I just can't get into. I mean, this is if not my favorite one. It would be a shame to have it, just kind of peter out there.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. No, there are plans. I've heard of at least a couple of movies in the pipeline and an animated TV series they keep talking about as well. So,
Ooh, that would be fun.
With Bruce continuing as well. So.
Oh, that would be awesome.
That'd be great. Cool, guys. All right. Well, I'm going to let you go. Like I said, I think we've gone a little longer than we intended, but again, appreciate your time and stay groovy and see you next time. All right.
Hail to
Right.
the
There you go.
baby.
Hail to the king. Hail to the chief. Good stuff. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.